Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Um, I'll go ahead and jump into our assignment. I interviewed 5 different people on our launch team for this assignment. One was my husband, Nathan, and 2 were friends that we've known for almost 10 years that served overseas with us, and now they're serving with us here in America. And then 2 are friends that we've made over the past year that are also part of our launch team. My goal was to ask them questions that would help me determine how comfortable people are with me. They are all my friends, so I felt like they'd be pretty honest about that. But then also, I wanted to know and learn ways I could improve relationally as a leader. And because they were my friends, I was hoping that they'd be pretty honest about it. The first question that I asked was, in general, how do people feel after interacting with me? And almost every single person responded with happy, uplifting, encouraged, good, things like that. And since I'm an introvert and pretty friendly person, that wasn't too much of a surprise to me. The second question that I asked was, in a group setting, where do you see me engaging or shying away? Um, Having people mention that I shy away from the difficult or negative conversations was really hard. Actually, 3 of the 5 people mentioned that. We've had already in our church plant's short life, we've already had some really difficult conversations that have had to happen. And my tendency is to shy away from it, not because I don't want to be part of the confrontation, but as I read through The Emotional Healthy Leader, I think I'm afraid to actually exercise the power that I have because I don't want to hurt anyone. One of the past positions that we had in another church, we did experience some spiritual abuse. So I think I've allowed that to come with me into my role as a senior pastor. So I think I get afraid that I might actually fail and fall on my face, and so I tend to hesitate without actually taking any steps forward. I did feel a little redeemed because a little later I asked the question, how could I relationally grow this year? And almost every person said something along the lines of allow people to help you, spend more time with people in your neighborhood, things that we've already all been talking about in our group that we all wanted to do. But one of the statements that stood out to me was about introductions. One person mentioned that I'm great at meeting new people and making them feel at ease, but that I don't often introduce them to people in our group that are already here, so the rest of the group. As I thought about it, I realized that one of the reasons I think I don't introduce people is because I'm terrible at remembering people's names. So instead of introducing them, I just let them introduce themselves, which is terrible, terrible. One of my goals this year is to be a better listener. So I think I need to add part of that, learning some tools to remember people's names. So if anybody has any great ideas for that, I would greatly appreciate them. One of my other questions was, would you say I'm a good listener and why? And as you all know, one of my goals is to become a better listener. So it was exciting to hear almost every single person said yes. One person said most of the time. And I'm pretty sure that it was my best friend Laura, and we both do this thing where we don't always listen 100% to each other. I think it probably comes from a distraction as a mom, and I think I mentioned it in one of my other videos, like the countertransference of putting myself and she does it to me too. Like we put ourselves into each other's shoes, situations. So we forget what the person that we're talking to actually said because we find ourselves in the midst of their conversation. So I totally agree with her on that if it was her. But then to hear all of the yeses made me feel like, okay, great. I am making strides forward in being a better listener. Some people even mentioned with the why at the end of that, they they pointed out some of the tools that I've actually been using. Repeat what people say to make sure I understand what they're saying, that I focus on the conversation at hand, and that I show I'm engaged in the conversation by using body language, like my facial expressions and head nods. So that was really exciting. The third question was, how do you feel knowing you need to have a tougher confidential conversation with me? Are you nervous or are you at ease? And everybody also said great things in that section. They said they're at ease, that I'm open to listen, so it's a comfortable situation for them, that they feel good because confidences are kept private. One person put that they're nervous, but they concluded it by saying that by the end of it, they're usually at ease because they know I always manage to see the good in people. So that was really comforting. So I think the one thing that stood out to me the most in this survey is how open my friends and my husband were with me. There were some not so good things that the survey revealed, and these friends didn't shy away from them. I think that means that I've created a safe place for them to express their opinions and feelings without fear that it would hurt our relationship. And then another thing that stood out to me is how my past continues to affect the way that I lead. That pastor from my past used his power in an unhealthy way. But I think that I really need to realize that that's not me. That's not who I am, and that's not who the people around me are perceiving me to be. These people trust me. And in chapter 8 of the I can't remember which book it was, The Emotionally Healthy Leader, he mentions that he gives a little survey on page 250 with power inventories examples, but the survey is on page 247, and it helps you walk through how healthy is your use of power and wise boundaries. And I felt like when I took this that I do a good job using my power wisely and healthily and establishing pretty good boundaries. That was the slippery slope for me. But recognizing that I'm not the leader from my past, and that I need to accept the calling that God's put into my heart, into my life. Some of the things that stood out to me and that I wrote down, almost kind of like something I need to repeat to myself, is I need to accept that I have the great honor of speaking for God and of being a chief spiritual leader. I need to stop shying away from things and be the leader that God's called me to be. So I think in summary, I learned from this that some of the areas that I need to grow, the relational skills that I need to learn, are to continue focusing on being a good listener and creating a healthy environment, because I think I'm doing a pretty good job at that. But then also to rest in the confidence that I am doing what God's called me to do. And as I continue to build these relational skills and capacities, that that confidence is only going to be stronger as I recognize and understand who God has called me to be.